comic books made more sense. You know it is fictitious without pretense.
Hello all, today we're going to be taking a look at a Superman digest, an old DC Comics digest, The Best of DC, number 32. And around this time, they produced a whole bunch of digests in the late 70s, early 80s. And what digests were they would be sold in convenience stores and grocery stores and drugstores at the cash. Basically, there's a little rack there for digests. There still are in my area, but digests are usually like soap opera digests. And the only comic digests that are really sold nowadays are Archie digests. Archie remained on the racks and have their own special place now in distribution, newsstand distribution. DC Comics pulled away from this and never returned. Marvel returned briefly through Archie a few years ago. I have that entire set. I'll do a thing on that later. But digests were really cool because they would offer, here it's like 100 pages of a whole bunch of different great stories based on some of these characters. DC was into this in a big way. Marvel was into it mostly with Transformers and G.I. Joe in the late 80s. And basically they were tiny compared to a comic. Can't even fit on this frame because I've tried to frame it for this, but this is a regular size comic, and as you can see, it's small. Theoretically, this can fit in like a backpack or like a pocket if you fold it. I love these. They're usually reprints, but I do love the fact that that you get so many stories, and this kind of thing with 100 pages highlighting some sort of theme is what you would find for $30 now at, Barnes & Noble, Chapters, like some sort of bookstore. It's the trade paperbacks of today. But this was something you would buy for like $1.50 or something back in the day. This is probably about twice or almost 3 times the price of a comic in its day. But, I mean, well worth it. Pretty cool stuff. So this one is a Superman one. Superman, the Christopher Reeve movies were huge at this time, so a lot of the digests were Superman related. They did do a lot of cool other things too, like Metal Man and Warlord and of course Batman and stuff like that. But Superman has a lot of different digests in this day. Just to cash in on the Supermania of the time. So this one is entitled Superman Battles the Mightiest Men in the Universe. This cover art is by Rich Buckler and Frank Giacomo. I don't know how to pronounce that. It's Giacoia. That's the problem with comics, in that you read these names over and over again and have no idea how to pronounce some of them. So here's the front art, and the backs usually had cool stuff, advertising what's inside. So here, Superman battles Vartox. We'll get into him in a bit. Parasite, in his first appearance, we'll talk about that. Solomon Grundy, a classic Superman villain. I mean, he didn't start out as that, but did turn up in a lot of Superman stories and made it into the Crash Test Dummy song. Superman never made any money saving the world from Solomon Grundy. I remember that. The Galactic Golem, I love this character. They don't really do a lot with it nowadays. And Sand Superman, from a very important storyline in Superman's mythos. So let's get into it. So here, usually there was a table of contents listing out all the stuff that's in this. This is from 1983. Superman 3 is coming out that year. This is this listed as January. Now, as you know, with newsstand distribution, it probably didn't come out in January. It's probably before that or a little after that, etc. So we're starting off with a Solomon Grundy story. And here they have a splash page kind of previewing what's going to happen. And here, Superman battles Skull. So this is the first appearance of Skull. And then all of this is from Superman 301 from 19 76. That was written by Gerry Conway and penciled by Jose Garcia-Lopez. And it's the first appearance of Skull. Skull is another gang. Usually in media they'll use intergang, etc. But I like Skull a lot. I know the intergang is Jack Kirby and everything, but I do love Skull from this era. I like their look. They're pretty cool. So on I think it's Earth 2, Solomon Grundy is trying to escape Earth 2. And this is usually, like, Earth 2 is where Solomon Grundy is supposed to have come from. The Earth 1 Solomon Grundy, I don't think is supposed to be the real Solomon Grundy. This is a whole thing before Crisis, right? So he's trying to figure out how to escape. He's been imprisoned by the Green Lanterns. And meanwhile, while he's trying to figure this out, Superman rounds up all the Skull agents and stuff in their first appearance here. And so Solomon Grundy in Earth 2 escapes into some sort of swamp portal. And here there's hijinks at the Galaxy building. This is around the time when Superman was a news reporter on TV. Lana Lang was there. Lois Lane was there, etc. Steve Lombard, that was another blowhard character that would always, bully Clark Kent. So Solomon Grundy comes and starts wrecking havoc. He's crushing his car with this person inside, and Superman is flying. This is a pretty cool shot right here. And here the fight commences. There's some great stuff by Jose Luis Garcia-Lopez. Lots of great angles. I love this, where it's a sort of like a Dutch tilt, and Solomon Grundy smacks Superman and he goes flying into the air. He crashes into a building and he regains his balance by grabbing onto this spire. This is a great shot too. All of this stuff is very dynamic stuff. So Solomon Grundy is bringing a swamp with him, and Superman can't figure this out. So Superman tries to grab him, but like Solomon Grundy smashes Superman into the ground. So Solomon Grundy can match Superman's power in a lot of these stories. Part of it is Superman's a little depowered from what he was in previous decades. But he's still, like, one of the strongest in the DC universe. Stronger than most, right? So they continue to fight. Clark Kent's there, and the reason why, and this is one of those super contrivances. Superman somehow hypnotized Steve Lombard into thinking that he was Clark Kent, disguised him as Clark Kent so that he could maintain his identity. Nowadays, that would be problematic in that, like, he's doing this without Lombard's consent. But anyway, it's weird. And you know what? This story could do without that. It's just some weird thing they threw in there. But if this were ever adapted to like a cartoon or something like that, you don't even really need that. But it just is designed to drum up some sort of intrigue, like, why is Clark Kent here when Superman's there? So Superman creates a boiling, like, swamp water around Solomon Grundy. These guys are about to fall into it, and then Superman blows them into, like, into safety here. More fighting, more punching. Superman gets smashed down into the swamp, and Superman kicks Solomon Grundy. Great fighting choreography stuff from Jose Luis Garcia-Lopez. So here, Superman does a loop-de-loop to scoop up Solomon Grundy, throw him into the harbor here, where Solomon Grundy then pulls a boat down, so Superman has to break that chain and save the boat. So in the end, Superman just flies Solomon Grundy to the moon and feels bad about it. He's like, I don't know what else to do here. He's threatening everyone in the city. So when he removes Solomon Grundy, the swamp starts draining away, and it goes into the sewers. Later on, this creates more Solomon Grundys. It's a whole thing, but anyway. So that's the end of that issue. That's pretty cool. Usually the Superman comics and Action Comics had more stories in them, but this story came from Superman 301 from 1976. Next up is Power of the Parasite from Action Comics 340 from 1966. This is the first appearance of Parasite, and it's written by Jim Shooter, of course, penciled and inked by Al Plastino. So, so usually there's a splash page showing what's going to happen here. So Superman's experimenting with something. He's helping like lab people out. And there's this strange encasing of something radioactive. So this dude, Jensen, thinks, oh, you know what? They usually say radioactive to keep people away from like a stash of money that they're carting from one place to the other. So he decides to open it. And of course it is radioactive and blasts him, right? And then, you know, this dude comes to try and help him, and he drains that guy's power. Now, I love this design of Parasite, the original design. It just looks eerie. I don't like when he's a big leech monster, and it's way over-designed, and kind of looks generic when he's a big monster and all that. Like, there's a lot of big monsters. I like this weird, it's just a weird look. It's like, there's like a skin film over everything, so you can't see his eyes or his nose or his mouth. But it just looks really eerie. It's simple. It's disturbing. If they ever did Parasite in a movie, this is what I would want. I wouldn't want the big monster. I know that they would do that because that's the big over-designed CGI look, right? But this is just unnerving and unique. You know, like no other characters really look like this, right? So, and here eyes are shining through. So he siphons power from all the other lab people. And here he's plotting his next move. And he realizes, you know what? I can take power from Superman. So Superman's building a new hospital by himself, I guess, putting construction workers out of a job. And so here he is doing his thing. And here comes Parasite. I love the purple and green look. That was mostly used by DC. Purple, green, and orange were the color schemes or colors used mostly by villains. I always wanted to know what a purple, orange, green Superman suit would look like for an evil Superman. But but here, of course, when he gets a disguise, it's green to complement his purple. So he realizes that Clark Kent has to be Superman because, you know, Kent is losing his power, and he's like, a lot of power is coming from this guy as though he's Superman. So now he knows. It's pretty quick, you know. Now he knows who he is. So he figures he doesn't have to take Superman's power. He can just go about his business committing crimes. Where Superman comes, he'll just tell him, hey, I know who you are. I could just tell everyone, right? So here he is robbing a bank, and Superman comes, and he rips off his suit, and here he has his classic suit here, and he says something like, "I'm glad I thought of this costume. It makes me look more fearsome." I don't know about that, but I do love it. It's the classic look. You know, the green underwear with the weird stripe going up here. I don't know if it's supposed to, you know, the thing about Parasite, I don't know if the purple is supposed to be his skin or a suit or what's going on there. I've always thought it was his skin. And there was a weird film over his, like an organic film over his face here. But anyways, he's attacking Superman. Superman's getting weak. And they fight more. This is pretty cool. He's getting bigger. And he's defeating Superman. So, Lois Lane is getting in the way. Superman wants to save her. And and he's like, you know what? Lois Lane's his girlfriend, so now he figures this out. And figures he can threaten her. Here he reveals that along with Superman's strength, he takes his powers as well. So he can blast him and everything, and he's punching the crap out of Superman. And so he throws cars and stuff at Superman and everything. It's pretty awesome. This is a big fight. Superman's getting weaker and weaker. And he's like, good, while he thinks I'm helpless, I'll duck his knockout blow. It's like, you can't dodge my punch. You're done for. It's like, that's what you thought. And then he punches the heck out of him. So he has been faking some of his strength, but what this comic is showing is that even though he's weakened, his willpower to go on is keeping him going, right? And so Parasite's like, I can't believe this. Like, this guy should be down for the count, right? But Superman's like Rocky here. So anyways, Parasite takes more and more and more of his power, and then he blows up because physically his body can't handle the power of a Kryptonian, right? So he blows up, and that's that. And this was, I guess, designed to be a one-off thing, but Parasite did come back. I remember in the Filmation cartoon, Parasite, this is basically what happened to Parasite. He kept siphoning power from Superman, and he blew up. But what's weird about the Filmation cartoon is, even though this is a great visual design, they just made him a bald, mustachioed man in the Filmation cartoon. That was weird. Anyhow. So here's some text of other things that have happened in the comics, like the Sand Superman and all that. This is basically explaining what happened before Superman 242. So it's basically talking about all of the things that led up to the shakeup in the Superman continuity at the time. Superman was seen to be way too overpowered, and everyone seemed to have kryptonite all the time. So what they did was they made a story where all of the kryptonite on Earth turns to iron. So no more kryptonite. And this interdimensional being from Quorum basically takes on the guise of Superman, and in so doing takes 1/3 of Superman's power. So Superman has 2/3 of the power he used to have. And so that's what leads into this next story. Also, there's this like demon from Quorum that tries to beat up Superman. It's a whole thing. So here's the demon, and it's beating up Superman in like a dump somewhere. There's these criminals that are punching up Superman. Superman's like weakened. And these two petty crooks decide to take control of this demon and think that the demon's stupid. So it's like, let's go like wreck stuff and crush stuff, and like it's what you're supposed to do. Meanwhile, Superman is put on a stretcher and put into the hospital. And these guys are parading around town just destroying stuff. It's like, you're supposed to smash stuff like this museum. So the demon goes in and smashes up this museum and crushes stuff, and poor officers are trying to stop him. And Superman comes, but it's the Sand Superman. So Sand Superman, from the same dimension he's from, punches him. Now, as the Quorum dimensional being took Superman's power and is slowly taking on his guise, it also takes on his personality and his penchant for doing good. So it's basically, in essence, becoming Superman. And so the Sand Superman is fighting this demon, and then finally flies away. Meanwhile, they're trying to operate on Superman. They're able to because he's no longer invulnerable. So I Ching comes, and the crappy white gown Wonder Woman who knows Kung Fu or karate or something comes. That was a whole weird time in the 70s. they couldn't even get the real Wonder Woman to appear in this. It's this crappy Wonder Woman. It's still Diana Prince, but it's I'm not even gonna get into that. It's the era of Wonder Woman everyone snickers at and laughs at, but at one point I'll revisit it. It's weird, but she doesn't even look like Wonder Woman here. It's just she's just wearing a white gown. And I Ching is like a spiritual kung fu character. So anyhow, so the demon goes on a warpath with these two on his shoulder. It's crushing stuff, destroying stuff. These cops are trying to shoot him. And here he's like wrecking more stuff. They're kicking him. It's like, keep going. They're getting overzealous with this guy. And so what are you waiting for? Dumb move. You heard Stupot Demon, get in gear. So they're mistreating him. And he's like, you say my mission is to destroy. You say I'm all powerful. And they're like, yeah, take it easy. And he's like, then I shall not obey you. No, I shall hurt you. And then he crushes them. And they do it in shadow here, and he kills them. And then they quote the Bible here. Neither shall wickedness deliver those that are given to it. So Superman slowly recovers here, and a demon's coming. And, useless Wonder Woman and I Ching are getting out of the way here. And here's Jimmy Olsen. So the demon comes to try and crush Superman. Useless Wonder Woman karate chops the demon. I don't get it. For all my skills, my knowledge of karate, I'm not doing any better. Oh, gosh. Yeah, please don't adapt this version of the character. And the demon's making his way to Superman. And Superman recovers and starts fighting this guy. So it's like we're absolute equals. The best I can hope for is a standoff. And so they fight in the streets. And Sand Superman comes and helps Superman. And they locate a dimensional rift where they throw him through it. Where the demon dissolves into the sort of like bones and whatnot that it possessed to become this. So that's that. So Superman confronts the Sand Superman. And Sand Superman is like, I want life. I want to continue existing. I want to help people as you have done. I want to be Superman. And so you must die. So they're about to fight, but I Ching senses, and I think Superman senses as well, that if they were to connect, they would destroy the planet and probably the universe. So he's like, let me, it's like let me make it so that you two can touch and not destroy like the universe and whatnot. So he does some sort of mystical thing, and they fight. And they burrow through the earth, through the center of the earth, all the way to the other side. They battle in space. But the tunnel that they burrowed through the earth creates a lot of upheaval. The magma from the center of the earth comes up into the surface and destroys all sorts of things around the planet. And whole cities get destroyed, and seas boil into nothingness. And then the whole world's destroyed. Everyone's dead. So while they're in space, they look down, and Superman's like, oh dear Lord, what have we done? For our own selfish ends, we've destroyed everything. Forgive me. So, of course, all this was a delusion that they both have that I Ching had given them. And it's like, that's what would happen if you fought. So don't do that. So they're not going to do that. There's a lot of apocalyptic imagery in Superman, especially in the 60s and 70s. It's pretty astonishing. More so than most, well, I'd say more so than all mainstream comics at the time. It's pretty incredible. Anyway, and you'll see that more with some of these other stories as we get into it. So, anyways, so the quorum dimensional being Sand Superman's like, you know what, I'm leaving, and I'm not giving you back the 1/3 of power. You should be satisfied with the 2/3 of power. No one should have all that power. So then he leaves, and that's how Superman becomes depowered in this era. Not depowered. He's still very, very strong, but he's not as strong as he used to be. He can't move planets and stuff. So, and then he's gathering his thoughts at the end. So that is the Ultimate Battle from Superman 242 from 1971, which shook up the Superman mythos from then on. Here's another apocalyptic vision. So, Lex Luthor is like, it's over. I've defeated Superman. But I destroyed the Earth as I did. The man who murdered the Earth. So this is from Superman number 248. A little after Superman 242, The Ultimate Battle. Superman 248 came out in 1972. It was written by Len Wein, penciled by Curt Swan, and inked by Murphy Anderson. This is the first appearance of the Galactic Golem. So, Lex Luthor had, he's flashing back to what he did. He had created, like a kind of a Frankenstein monster, but not from flesh, from cosmic entities and energies, basically dark matter, I guess. And so this is what he came up with. I like this design. The character became more generic after this, just looking like a bald man made of space. But here he's got these weird finger toes, and he has a big, like, a big blazing star kind of sun on his forehead, which will factor into things later. So he constantly wants to, like, this thing constantly wants to eat some sort of energy that Lex Luthor projects onto things for him to destroy and eat, right? So that's what Lex Luthor does. He projects this energy onto this building. Galactic Golem then destroys it and eats it. And so now he's going to use this to destroy Superman. So Superman is super golfing somewhere at some sort of charity event or something. And here comes the Galactic Golem. Now, the Galactic Golem does talk here, but it's through Lex Luthor's voice. And later on, Superman reveals that, because we can't know this reading this, but Superman reveals that the voice sounds exactly like Lex Luthor. It doesn't sound like something else. So Superman's like, like, get everyone and get out of here. And then Lois like, but Iron's like, no back talk. I love when Superman gets a little cross with Lois Lane. No back talk. Clear out for now. So Galactic Golem and Superman fight. Galactic Golem shoots some sort of galactic rays at Superman. And they fight. They bear hug. All sorts of stuff. Galactic Golem is a match for Superman and kind of weakens him as well. Another character that weakens Superman. Superman burrows into the ground and uses that to, like, make him fall, right? I've staggered it. Better get my licks in while I can. So they have another standoff here. And there's some nice fight choreography here. So Superman rolls him. Then they fly in the air. They smash into a construction area. And then here, like, Galactic Golem is still, it's Lex Luthor is trash talking Superman. And Superman feels he can't really defeat this guy, but he does realize that when he threw something at Galactic Golem, and Galactic Golem deflected it, and he's like, why would he do that, right here? And he figures that Galactic Golem is favoring this star on his head. That must be a weak spot. So Superman punches that weak spot, and it it creates a huge explosion that destroys everything around them. But when Lex Luthor looks on his view screen, the rest of the world has been destroyed by this explosion. Everything. China and wherever else he's showing here. So he's like, that's that. You know, he goes outside and he sees like an empty, quiet city. And he's like, Metropolis stands naked and forlorn. It's every tower a tombstone accusing me. He's like going crazy about this. So he's like, you know, what have I done? Like, you know, I wanted to kill Superman, but I've destroyed everyone else in the process, right? Meanwhile, Galactic Golem returns, and he's like, oh no. And it's trying to get the ray device that has the energy that he wants, right? And it goes through a force field to get it. And Superman comes to Lex Luthor's rescue and fights the monster. And he's like, can't give up, got to get through. And Luthor's had it. So, like, he's risking everything to save Luthor. Because he's Superman, you know. And so Lex Luthor figures, okay, let me shoot the rest of this energy off into this meteor shower here. That's actually a meteor shower that's flying past Earth. So he does that, and the Galactic Golem goes and follows the meteorites. And then Superman explains. Now this is more Super-Contrivance, which I never liked, because I thought it was fairly lazy. It's like, and this is probably where the stereotype of Superman comes through. It's like, well, you know, he's boring because he could just do anything, and he'll just like come up with some contrivance. And some of these stories are guilty of that, but I still love this story, and I love Galactic Golem. But Superman's like, I realized that punching that thing would be detrimental, so he somehow vibrated to the point where he could vibrate all other living things on Earth and teleport them to another dimension where they're safe. But in so doing, teleported himself to another dimension by accident, so that they would be safe from the explosion. And so, or something like that. So the explosion happens, and he's able to bring everyone back. He doesn't explain how everything gets fixed as well. But anyways, he's going to fly Lex Luthor to jail. And he goes, Luthor, I do believe you're smiling. And then Luthor's like, listen to it, Superman, the sounds of life and laughter. Sure, I've got something to smile about. So, like, he's evil and he wants to kill Superman, but he doesn't want to destroy all humanity in the process, right? So that was Superman 248 from 1972. And here we have Mystery Mission to Metropolis from Superman 281 from 1974. This is written by Cary Bates and penciled by Curt Swan and inked by Bob Oxner. And this is the first appearance of Vartox, and right off the bat, what does Vartox look like? He looks like Sean Connery from Zardoz, which came out in the same year, 1974. And that's who he's modeled after. It's basically like Sean Connery from that weird Zardoz movie. And he's even got the hairy chest and everything. So there's a prologue here where a girl in some sort of like cafe or something like that is robbed, gets shot, and she dies. Meanwhile, halfway across the galaxy, this woman dies as well, and that's the wife of Vartox. She dies at the same time as this woman, so they're somehow linked. So Vartox is he really looks like Sean Connery here, but Vartox is like, oh my gosh, my wife's dead. Now he's the Superman of this planet, and they try to figure out what happened, and they're like, incredible, you mean to say my wife died because on some other world in a far-off galaxy another woman died? Not just any woman, Vartox, but your wife's bionic twin. whatever. So this happens. I don't I don't really get what's going on there, but they have some sort of like future projection thing of what would happen if he, I'm giving this away, but what would happen if he went there to confront this guy. So he wants to bring this man who shot this other woman to his planet to face justice. So he goes there and he fights Superman. And he's like, I see you received my the intergalactic gram I transmitted, Superman. I think it was telegrams back in the 70s. So when they thought of a space way of communicating, it was an intergalactic gram. Yes, I know, Vartox, but I can't let you go through with it. So Vartox goes to get the guy who shot the other woman and ends up fighting Superman. And they fight all over the place. And Lois Lane is in the way as usual. And so they're fighting more. And Superman does this flip roll thing that he did in the last story we saw. And they keep fighting. And one of the beams that Vartox shoots at Superman deflects off Superman's S shield and kills Lois. And so Vartox is like, Superman, I never meant for anything like this to happen. Believe me, I'm sorry. This Lois Lane, I can sense he truly loved her. What a shocking outcome. So it's a simulation of what would happen if he barged in and did this. He's like, there must be a way out, right? So he goes to Earth, but he's disguised as this guy, and so this guy gets the shooter out of prison, and Vartox, disguised, gives the man powers to just take what he wants by snapping his fingers. And he takes like a jewel from some museum somewhere, and and all this stuff. And the guy's like, wow, I got these snappy powers. I can just snap my fingers and get all this stuff. Meanwhile, Lois Lane is practicing karate with Clark Kent. Clark Kent takes a look at the criminal that has been let go. Actually, he was let go from prison. So he sees that, oh my gosh, he's stealing stuff. So he takes a look through his telescopic vision, which I don't know if they even have that anymore, where he could just, from anywhere he could just like take a look at somebody, halfway across the earth or whatever. And so Clark leaves. He's like, oh yeah, that last blow, Lois, really shook me. So he leaves. He becomes Superman. He goes to capture the guy and ends up fighting this guy with the imbued powers from the disguised Vartox. And they drill Superman, so he goes through this. That's a cool panel. He goes through all these little apartments here. And Superman recovers and goes back. So Vartox then teleports the man to this other galaxy. And so Superman goes after them. Superman deflects a meteorite that's in their beam's way as they teleport, and doesn't stop them. So they go to the other planet. Vartox reveals that he's Vartox, puts him to sentencing on their justice system. So Superman gets there, and he goes, I'm sorry about your wife, but as for your laws, 60-year sentence. So they sentenced him to 60 years. And he's like, no problem, you can take Sykes back with you now. He has already served his time. They aged him 60 years, rather than keep him there for 60 years. So he's like, the scales of justice have balanced out. Frank Sykes got away with murder on one world, Earth, only to pay the penalty for it on another. So that's the first appearance of Vartox, who would appear a lot more in the 70s. I don't think he's around much anymore. I know that he returned in Post-Crisis in Young Justice briefly in Volume 2, number 21. And he would later appear in Justice League like 3000 in 2014. Vartox is actually the main villain in the first. Let me get a good look at it. Yeah, Vartox is actually the main villain in the first episode of Supergirl. He's the villain in the pilot episode. He's just a random villain from another planet. He kind of looks like this. He doesn't look like Sean Connery much. He's mentioned in the mobile game DC Legends as well. So yeah, Vartox is a neat character. They don't really use him much. Here's another little write-up about other characters. There's Bizarro, of course. There's Hercules, one of many different incarnations of Hercules. Of course, Hercules falls for Lois Lane because everyone does. And fights Superman. There's Venus as well. So, all sorts of different characters. This is a neat little buy. If you were a kid back then, lots of great stories, lots of great little write-ups, stuff like that. Here's a little commercial for Camelot 3000. Great art here. And that is Superman Battles the Mightiest Men in the Universe from the Best of DC Blue Ribbon Digest, number 32 from 1983. Hope you like this little walk through this digest. Take care.